record. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So welcome everybody for our next steps information session. Hopefully this will be helpful and informative to you. Feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat at any point. You can also unmute and interrupt. That is always welcome to do as well too. Cameras on, cameras off, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Tonight, basically, we're going to cover a lot of general information about what happens when intro class is over, and answer any questions that you have about that. Tom, Teresa, any announcements that you need to cover with your students before I start diving in?
No, I don't think so
Okay, perfect.
on
Nope,
my side.
nothing here.
All right, so then off we go. So for our next steps meeting agenda tonight, we're going to talk about what's front end, what's back end, what's full stack, what are advanced classes like, how do you get into the advanced classes, hit those key takeaways so that way you know the important bits of information from what we cover tonight, and then we'll also have a question and answer session. We have a number of folks, as I had mentioned, that'll be joining us from various walks of the Code the Dream program path, so that way they can help you get information that you might need or want and answer questions that you have. So diving right in. So as you might remember from your week on web and HTML back in early December, data that creates a site like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all of those combined live on a server. A web browser is a means to access that data so a page can be viewed and interacted with. So in web development, you can be front end where you're working on and focusing on building the parts of the site that the users see and interact with. So the page that a person is visiting on the internet. Back end, you focus on building and keeping organized all the data that the front end uses. So maybe that's an inventory of products on a sale site where people can decide what they want to buy from that business. And full stack is either focusing on either area and or focusing on how the information gets transferred from back to front. Any caveats or corrections or better explanations to that definition from Tom or Teresa or any of our volunteers on the call? Good. All right. So there are a lot of programming languages out there. You've been working with JavaScript primarily with your intro to programming class, and there are many other similar languages that help build software, help build programs, help build websites. So it can feel a little overwhelming when you think about all of the different programming languages that are available, and different ones can be used for different areas, just like your CSS handles your design part of your page, your HTML handles the structure part of your page, the JavaScript handles a lot of the functionality of your page. So they kind of handle different areas at times, and or there are multiple that handle the same things, but they might do it in different ways. Kind of like different dialects of a spoken language. You might have different words for the same thing in different dialects of a language, but they mean the same thing. They're just pronounced a different way or said a different way. And programming languages can gain and lose popularity. Trends kind of happen. As you all probably have observed with the advent of AI, there were a lot of changes that happened in the tech industry. So things can ebb and flow as time goes on. What Code the Dream Labs, our development shop side of our organization, currently develops in is React, Ruby, Rails, Node, and Python. Node and Python, we have very few, very limited products that we're building using those right now. Because they are newer projects that we're building on the development shop side of things. So if your end game is apprenticeship with Code the Dream Labs, or at least if that's your next big next step for what you want to accomplish, then you'll want to focus more in React, Ruby, Rails, because we don't have a ton of things going on yet with Node, Python. So just putting that out there. Oh, I didn't get my order for transitions on the slide right. There we go. So we'll just have it all up there. Okay, so the advanced class options you'll have this spring. The advanced classes will start March 12th, 2025, as you see highlighted there on the screen. React is a JavaScript-based front-end class. Ruby is a Ruby-based back-end class. You also use Rails to be able to interact with that back-end data. Node Express is a JavaScript-based full-stack class where you're building an API and you're using Express to be able to get that API data passed to the front end, and you'll use either React or JavaScript as the front end, just so that way you have something that can be seen and interacted with the product that you've built using Node and Express. Python is the newest class that we are offering, and the Spring 2025 class is the first instance of it that we will have. You'll be learning Python language, SQL, data structuring, data engineering basics, cleaning and validation of data, databases, web scraping, data visualization, so sort of charts and graphs and things of that variety. So if you have not already received your conditional acceptance to this class, then you will need to wait until summer 2025 to take Python if that was what you were wanting to take next. Our spring class is full. If you've already gotten your conditional acceptance, or if you were expecting one and didn't see one, reach out to me. But if you have already gotten your conditional acceptance, all you have to do is just check the boxes for your intro class, turn in your final projects, complete the assessments that I'll talk about in a minute, and then you'll be good to go to proceed onto your Python class. So regardless of which of these four you're interested in, they'll all start March 12th. So you have about a 4-week break roughly between when intro ends and the advanced classes begin. In general, we recommend that intro grads either take React or Ruby on Rails next, just because that's where our development shop has the greatest need, is for React and Ruby on Rails developers. If you've conditionally been accepted to Python already, that's totally acceptable too. For the Node class, our data has indicated that students do best if they take React first and then take Node. So if you're wanting to learn Node, we recommend doing React and then doing Node in the trimester after React, just because it helps give you a better visual and kind of a better understanding of how to build things, because you understand where it's supposed to go on the front end. Questions up to this point? I don't want to be, steamrolling through things and not cover questions that people have coming to mind. All right, moving right along then. So what are these advanced classes like? As we had said, March 12th is the start date for all of them. They are similar to your intro class in the format. So you're still going to have the Learns app that you log into to take a look at your lesson materials, to see your assignment instructions. You'll still have mentor sessions available, just like you've had throughout your intro class, one-on-one sessions, group sessions, all of that good stuff. So the format's not really going to be different. And the challenge of having something new that you're learning is not going to be different. How they are different, though, is content. So you're going to be learning more advanced concepts. You're going to get a lot of practice with your JavaScript if you take React or Node. So you're going to get really comfortable writing your JavaScript syntax if you take either of those classes. If you're taking Ruby or if you're taking Python, then you'll be learning a new program language, either Ruby or Python. And you'll have different types of lesson materials. So in intro, we had the fun and adventures at the start of this class, where you were using Code Sandbox, where you're using Odin Project and Scrimba and things of that variety. Different classes have different resources available. The current React class uses a textbook that we give you a PDF copy of called Road to React. But the spring version of it, I think we were able to get away from the textbook. And so we have lesson content sort of similar to your intro class, but less of it will be outsourced to Odin or to Scrimba. It'll be content that we've written ourselves. So there are differences between the classes as far as what kind of lesson materials you'll be using, but all of them are still either text and or video based online. The pace and intensity is definitely going to kick it up a notch. Most of our advanced classes used to be 18-week long classes, and starting with the fall 2024 classes, I may have a typo in there, then they were all condensed to 15 weeks without removing content. So everything got shoehorned into 15 weeks. So you're learning 18 weeks worth of content in a 15-week time period with these advanced classes. The other biggest difference is a practicum at the end. So what is a practicum? The practicum is an opportunity for you to be able to work together in small groups to start learning about team development. So it's rare that a developer will build a product completely on their own and not have other developers working on building or doing any part of that project. So that's why we do the practicum, because it's important for you to learn what kind of project management tools are in play, how to collaborate with people on the same body of code so you're not overwriting each other's code, different things of that variety. So practicum lasts about 8 to 10 weeks. You'll be in a small group. Your small group will have a dedicated mentor or mentors that will help walk you through all of these things. So that way you're putting into practice everything you learned in intro in your advanced class. You're working on collaborating and building all of those wonderful professional skills that will help you regardless of what languages you're working in. And it's just a fun sort of good experience to be able to get your feet wet in team development and building collaboratively when it comes to writing code. Questions about these basics that I can answer? Okay. All right. So how do you get into these advanced classes, right? All of you have to do a final project. So you have your portfolio project and you have your Open API project, which I don't think has been addressed yet in your lessons, but it's coming up. So you'll be building those two sites, those two projects, and you'll turn those in. You'll want to make sure that your projects meet rubric requirements. So as I had mentioned on the final project completion lesson page for your class, then you should have detailed rubrics that outline, this is all of the bits and pieces that should be in your portfolio. This is all the bits and pieces that should be a part of your Open API project. If you do fall short, so maybe, you hit one endpoint of your Open API project, but you didn't hit your second one, or maybe there's some things that are broken with your message form part of your portfolio or whatever the case may be. You don't have to retake the entire class unless you want to. You will have a little bit of time since there's that 4-week gap between when your class ends and advanced classes start. You'll have about a week after the official end date of your class to turn in any final project or get any kind of revisions and resubmissions turned in. And we can re-review it before that advanced class begins. The window is a pretty short one because it takes time to get your revision, have your revision reviewed, and then go from there as far as getting you set up to be able to be joining the next class. So only about a week after the class ends, but you do have a little bit of wiggle room if something's a little bit short of rubric. Okay, final project submission form. So how do you turn in your final project? It's going to be the same link as your assignment submission form. So on lesson 15, the final week of class, it'll have final project completion. You'll use the submit assignment. The lesson will say Intro to Programming version 5, lesson 15, final project. And so you'll turn that in. Your assignment submission form is going to look a little bit different that week. It'll have you pick and rank what you want to take next for your class. So for those of you who've already been conditionally accepted to Python, put Python as your first choice. For anybody that wants to take React, Node, or Ruby on Rails next, put React, Node, or Ruby on Rails as your first choice, whichever is the case. Put a backup so that way if you did put in your first choice and that class is full, then we can get you into your second choice. Generally, people get into their first choice, obviously with Python already being full. If you haven't been conditionally accepted to it, then you will get your second choice instead. So just be aware of that, but rank what you want to take next as your first choice, second choice, third choice on that form. And I have the numbering wrong on this one too. So while your lesson 14, not 17, submission might be identical to your finished product, like your final project completely finished, be sure that you're submitting your completely finished project. So if week 14 you submit and maybe your reviewer says, yeah, tweak this one little thing here or there, or you had your pull request open and you haven't merged it yet, merge it, make sure there's no open pull requests, go ahead and turn in your repository link for your projects on that lesson 15 assignment. Everything feel clear about final projects? Anybody have questions about final project submission, where to find rubrics, anything like that? Cool, cool. All right. So the other part, besides the final projects, and I know some of you might feel a little nervous about this, don't worry, scores don't matter. A couple of trimesters ago, we started seeing how would it work if we were to offer a technical assessment so that way students can see what those are like, because it isn't uncommon for technical assessments to be part of a job interview process. as well as it might be able to help students see areas where they need to strengthen their knowledge or reinforce some things. It might help us see if there are areas that our curriculum is lacking that we need to reinforce so that way students have the education and support in those areas. So there'll be 2 skill assessments that we send you. One is just a multiple choice about JavaScript syntax. So it'll give you an example of like map. What does the map function do? Or which of these options would be the option you would use to reference the second object of this object, array of objects or whatever. So there'll be little things like that. We will give you a practice sample test that you can access within the last 2 weeks of class and play around with. So that way you can get comfortable with the CoderByte assessment website, so you can get comfortable with, okay, what does this look like? How does this feel when I'm taking it? What tools are available on that site as I'm taking it? That kind of thing. So you'll have a practice test that scores don't matter. Take it, don't take it, whatever feels right to you. You can take it multiple times if you want to, just to get yourself comfortable with it, ease any nerves, anything like that. But again, scores do not matter on your multiple choice and your coding challenge assessments. It's just for us to be able to see, are there areas that we can give you feedback on? Are there areas that we need feedback on as far as our curriculum? So the first assessment, as I had mentioned, is multiple choice, very straightforward. The second assessment that we give you is a coding challenge. And so they'll either give you basic blocks of code or files to work with and say, this is what is currently structured. Go ahead and build out a part of JavaScript, a section of JavaScript code that does this with what you've been given. Or it'll say, here's an array of numbers and letters and strings, figure out how to sort it alphabetically, write some JavaScript code that sorts it alphabetically. So coding challenges are similar to that. LeetCode exercises, some people might have heard of. Those are definitely things that you can get online and practice with. Again, there'll be a coding challenge sample that's part of that practice test that we give you in the last 2 weeks of class. So feel free to research anything that you want to, collaborate and work together, talk to your mentors about it, anything that might help ease any nerves, but don't worry because scores don't matter. So you just have to take them. That's the only thing. It doesn't matter if you take both, get zeros on both. It doesn't matter. You can still advance to your advanced class as long as you've taken both of your assessments and as long as you've turned in passing final projects. Hopefully that helps answer questions as far as assessment. And the reason we're giving it to you, as I had mentioned, it's better to see it now than to be seeing it for the first time in a job interview where the stakes are noticeably higher. And it's just helpful for us to see, is testing successful for a process for our classes or not, and kind of see how things go. One thing to note, if you are on the call and you either don't complete the intro class or you're intending to defer and take the intro class this spring, then we may have requirements change based on data that we see as far as how our scores kind of ebbing and flowing across intro classes. We may require a minimum score in future classes. So if you join us in summer or fall, then there might be the added layer of, okay, we are requiring these assessments and you do have to get a 50% or higher or something like that. So just be aware, if you're doing future iterations of the intro class, these rules might be different. Okay, so details about them. As I had mentioned, there's the multiple choice assessment, there's the coding challenge assessment. You'll have an hour to do 25 multiple choice questions. You'll have 2.5 hours to do 4 coding challenges. The CoderByte assessment does give us a rough estimation of how long these challenges should take. And so we went about 45 minutes to an hour longer than the expected time on the coding challenges, just to be able to give everybody some breathing room. And we went about 15 minutes to 20 minutes longer for the time allotment for completing your multiple choice questions. It's not open book, but they do have a widget in the assessment so that you can look things up. You don't have to have every JavaScript syntax item memorized, because that is not realistic, even for people who have been doing JavaScript for 40 years. So yeah, you'll have resources available as you're taking it. You can access it to take both of those assessments at as early as February 5th. They have to be done by February 18th. Your final projects and the last sort of official day of class for you all is February 11th. So you'll have the last week of class and then a week after the official end of class to be able to take both of your assessments. And I'll be sharing more details as we get closer to that time. So the last 2 weeks of your class, I'll say, here's your practice sample test for anybody that wants to take it. And then starting February 5th, then I'll say, here you go, here's the assessment. The assessments, go ahead and take them at your leisure when you're able to, but before the 18th, of course. Questions about the assessment? Sorry, before I move on. All right. Either I'm answering all the questions or you all are just a really quiet bunch. Okay. So now let's do a little meet a developer. So obviously, Tom and Teresa have worked in development and are in Rio as well. Sorry, I just spotted you on the call, Rio. So they can definitely share some information with you. I'm looking to see Rebecca was supposed to join us too. Let me make sure that I'm not missing where she's at. Oh, you know what? She might be joining us in just a couple of minutes. I think she was finishing up something with work. And KJ is on the call. KJ is one of our apprentices. It's a Ruby Rails developer. KJ, do you mind starting from sort of the apprenticeship perspective as far as, what languages, frameworks did you start out with as a student? What were you learning? What are you currently using as a developer? Obviously, your first job as a developer with Code the Dream is with Code the Dream, but you also might have had some side hustles, so feel free to share any of that information as well, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm KJ. I use she, they pronouns, and I have been an apprentice developer at Code the Dream for about a year and a half. I started out with Ruby on Rails, as my advanced language. I learned the same basic ones that you guys are learning right now, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I currently work with Ruby on Rails, a full stack Ruby on Rails app. And then my first job in development was at Code the Dream. I've been an apprentice with their labs for about a year and a half on Project Upstate, which is a application that helps provide transparency to the North Carolina legislature. Um, and then what do I enjoy about my current work? One thing I really love about Code the Dream and just working as a developer in general is that there's always the next challenge. There's always something new to overcome, always something new to learn. I'm never bored, I'm never doing the same thing. Um, and I love building things from scratch. I get to build things that real people get to use and get to test out and apply to their daily lives. And I think that's really cool. And then my biggest challenge to getting where I am today was probably imposter syndrome mixed with a fear of failure. Um, my whole life, I was never pushed towards STEM or anything like that. So I didn't even know it was a choice. I didn't know being a developer was a choice for me. And then Code the Dream gave me the choice to be a developer. Um, but overcoming that and people in the STEM field that don't have a non-traditional background, it's very prevalent. We're not rare, people with non-traditional backgrounds. We're becoming more and more popular, but it's definitely different to get your foot in the door of STEM from a non-traditional background, and it brings you a lot of that imposter syndrome, that am I good enough? Can I do it? I'm not even gonna try because I'm gonna fail. And so overcoming those two things, and I still struggle with imposter syndrome to this day. I don't know anybody that doesn't. Even developers and people that have been doing this 20, 40 years, they still struggle with it. So I don't know if that's anything you ever overcome, but I've definitely learned to cope with it more. And I've overcome my fear of failure. And I am happy to fail forward and continue to make mistakes because that's how we learn. Yeah, that's all I got for you.
Thanks, KJ.
Yeah.
Rio, would you mind sharing a little bit about your work experience and kind of your travel into tech?
Yeah. Hey everyone. So I'm Rio, and I got my start in tech like 3-ish years ago. I was coding in school a little bit. I took a few classes in college, and I was learning C++. And so that was what I started with, and I liked it a lot. So I did a coding boot camp, and there we learned JavaScript and basically the same stack that you all are learning here, JavaScript, and then React, and then Node and Express. Um, and I really liked JavaScript and web development, so I stayed in that kind of lane. And I eventually got my first job using React. So, and that's where I work now. So, um, yeah, I'm a React developer, and so I definitely like I'm all for React, and I would encourage you all to learn React because it's great. Um, my first job, yep, I I actually used something called Expo, which it's it's like part of React Native, and it allows you to make desktop apps, web apps, iOS and Android, all with one language. So, um, yeah, I'm big on that. What do I enjoy about my current work? Just constant learning. I think that's probably my favorite part. I just like always getting the chance to learn new things. And so, yeah. What was the biggest challenge getting to where you are? Definitely just self-doubt. Um, I didn't have a 4-year degree, and growing up, there was a time where I didn't think of myself as like being capable to do this kind of thing. So yeah, self-doubt is the biggest thing to get over, and um, has still been a challenge, but um, it helps to just um, I don't know, stay motivated, and keep your eyes on like what your goals are. And um, also with like learning new things, the more you learn, the more confident you'll get. And yeah.
It
Okay.
also helps to know that other people have self-doubt too, because
Yeah.
it's good to see people who are already in experienced positions being like, oh yeah, there's moments there. That's just a normal part of the human condition.
Yep. Definitely.
Awesome. Thanks, Rio. Anything else? I hope I didn't cut you off. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, no, I was done.
All right, awesome. Also on our call tonight is Rebecca. Rebecca, if you'd like to share your answers to this information as well, too.
Yeah, so I actually tried to learn to code multiple times and didn't necessarily feel successful the first few times I started. So the first time I dabbled, I tried to take a Coursera course in Python, but it was just really overwhelming and I didn't understand it. And so I actually kind of gave up halfway through. And then a couple months later, I still really wanted to learn how to code. And so I took a class at my local community college in Python. I had a degree already in something else and was working in another field at the time. Really liked that, but felt like by the end of the class, like I didn't actually like have enough skills to get a job. And so then did a boot camp, which did Python, SQL, and JavaScript, but it was like old school JavaScript. It wasn't that long ago, but it was old school JavaScript with like jQuery. So my first job, which is still my current job, um, is I'm a full stack senior software engineer, and I use Python, MySQL, and JavaScript React at my job now. And so, yes, I had learned JavaScript before. Yes, I had learned some Python, but I really didn't have like experience in a true full stack environment. Had to learn Docker, and also had to learn React, like on my first day at the job. So, which they were very understanding and helpful about. So no, it was kind of in the same area, but there was a lot that was new or different. I remember emailing my supervisor a few days before my job had started because I hadn't really heard anything other than just like show up on day one, we'll email you a laptop. And I was like, do I like need to do something because I don't know React? And he was like, I mean, you can go through a tutorial beforehand if you want, like, or you can just learn it on the job. It's totally fine. And I remember being really nervous about that. What do I enjoy about my current work? I work for the Philadelphia Phillies, a baseball team. So that's like super fun because it's baseball. But I would say also I enjoy lots of other things about my current work. I actually really, really like being a full stack engineer. I like being able to work across the entire stack to see how all of the different parts connect. I like switching languages as I work. I think that that's really fun. I love front end development, but I also really love back end development, and I like being able to do both. And I like that I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly doing things that challenge me. I don't always face things that I know how to do, and I usually find that exciting and fun. Um, I would agree with everybody else that imposter syndrome is huge. I think it was an even larger challenge for me in my first career, and I was really fortunate to have a lot of really good mentors who helped me with tools with that as I went to move into engineering. I would say one of the other biggest challenges has been like learning how to navigate the system. I work at a really great place, but like learning how to navigate applying to jobs, how to learn new things, how to convince other people that you should get a promotion or that you should be able to work on a specific project or whatever it may be. All of that I think is challenging. And I do think honestly, like one of my biggest challenges was getting started. I felt like a complete failure and I felt like it was way too hard the first time I tried to learn how to code. So I'm glad that I had people in my life who convinced me to keep going.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. Tom or Teresa, anything that you wanted to add to sort of this general theme of conversation as far as how to get started or things to keep in mind as you're getting out into the industry?
So I'll just throw out a few things. My experience, very different, mainly because I was in the industry for so long. I'm retired now. My first job was coding in assembly language, believe it or not. Don't know if any of you have even ever learned assembly or looked at it. I actually thought it was a lot of fun. I liked it. Um, but one thing I always like to throw out there is I think I counted up once in my career, 30 plus years, I probably learned 30 different languages and technologies. So whatever you start, and that was one of the things that Mary Alice pointed out, that languages come and evolve, are better for some domains. Some things are better for some domains than other things. Most of my career, I worked on submarine sonar. So very complex environment with a very rigid constraints, I guess I'll say. But you will learn a lot of new languages as you go along in your career. But for the most part, I mean, the logic is the same. Logic is logic. That doesn't change. So I always found that a lot of fun learning new things that was only going to make my job easier as I was learning it. So that was a really good thing. Yeah, for the most part, I mean, development is fun. It's the other parts of your job that aren't fun, but the actual coding and developing the system is good. Like this big puzzle that you get to solve. I think that's a good way of looking at it, even when it's frustrating. When you get everything to work, it's a lot of satisfaction. And I've always really liked that.
Awesome. Thanks, Teresa. Anything to add, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I guess similar to that, I actually started out doing hardware or microcode, which is sort of this super low level code below the instruction set, and then assembly code, and sort of evolved my way towards software. You're designing hardware, it starts to look more and more like software. You're doing a lot of software to help do the hardware. And eventually I ended up in electronic design automation and basically doing software like that over the course of 41 years. And I would say, yeah, there's a crazy, I didn't count the number of languages or technologies. It's kind of a hobby anyway, learning them. still doing that. It's part of the fun for me. Um, I would say that the imposter syndrome never goes away, even with a college degree, even with, whatever, right? Everything's always changing. Everybody's always learning. I remember being in these interviews with super intimidating people, and at the end of the day, when you're doing the work, everybody just has to learn new stuff all the time anyway. And the best work environments I was in were the ones where everybody recognized that and everybody was cool about explaining things and, recognize that everybody knows some of what's going on and doesn't know other parts of what's going on, and that everybody should just communicate and help each other. Some environments were better than others for that, but I think that was the healthiest possible thing is to go in thinking, I know my part of it. I don't know everything, and the same is true of everyone else. And it's all about continuous learning. Stuff I learned in school, aside from sort of learning to learn type things, is pretty useless, right? Ancient assembly languages for things that aren't built anymore, and horrors like PL1 that you wouldn't want to learn. And there's new stuff coming all the time, and take the imposter syndrome as motivation to go out and learn some more, I guess. Yeah, I guess that'd be what I would add.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, and to kind of layer on that as well, one thing that I've found as a commonality across all of the developers, programs, software engineers, data analysts, security specialists, whatever that I've come across, is success seems to be determined by being excited to learn new things and being open to learning new things. And I feel like that really goes a long way. So even though you might feel a little daunted by moving into an advanced class, like try and tap into that excitement to learn, because that really is what kind of carries you through in my experience. Any questions for the developers that you all have heard from just now? All right. Well, as always, you can definitely include questions and things in the chat as well, too. So feel free to put any questions in there. Our next step is to meet an advanced student. So even though KJ is already a graduate and has moved on to apprenticeship, I asked that she also speak a little bit to what it was like as a student. So KJ, if you want to touch on these questions a little bit, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. When I was a student and I had gotten my feet wet with JavaScript and HTML and CSS, I was looking, there was like two paths. It was either I was going to go learn React, or I was going to go learn Ruby on Rails. And I met with multiple people from both sides, and they both try and convince you which one is better. And I realized that I felt like my front end skills were pretty okay, but the back end stuff really scared me. I felt like I had no experience in it. Like, how could I learn this without a degree? And so I thought that it would be best to tackle my fear head on. Because what better place to learn than Code the Dream, in a place where you'll be caught if you fail. So I chose the thing that I thought was scariest, and I ended up loving it. I love the back end. Now, I have my respect for the front end, especially working on like a full stack Ruby on Rails application. But I love the back end. I love building the bones of something. I love creating databases and connections. I I wouldn't have it any other way. That's what I enjoyed about it. That's what I still love about it. My biggest challenge, that's probably, I hate writing tests. I really do. It's a bad habit to have as a developer, but I hated it when I learned it as a Ruby on Rails student, and I hated it as a developer. And again, like, I think that you should face your fears and the things that make you uncomfortable head on. And so now that's what I do on the project that I am. I'm like helping redesign our testing suite. So it'll be those things that you hate that are really those biggest challenges that like you finally like, ah, I'm done. Thank goodness that you look back on, you have all those skills and all of that experience. And if I was in an intro right now, would I choose the same advanced class that I was in? I would choose it. Not only is like Ruby on Rails like in demand, but I think that the community behind Ruby on Rails is really, really unique. It's very welcoming and it's ever expanding. Like you can always find a community of Ruby on Rails somewhere, whether it's on a forum, at Code the Dream, on Reddit. Like you can always find somebody to help you with your problems.
Awesome. Thanks, KJ. The other student that we are fortunate to have on our call tonight is Olga Karaman. Olga, whenever you're set, feel free to answer your information here. Olga joined us bypassing the intro class and dual enrolled in React and Node initially, and is focusing on React now.
Hello, everybody. My name is Olga, and currently I'm participating in React Practicum, but I start my Code the Dream way with React Advanced class. And actually, from the beginning, I was already like ready to understand what I want to learn. So I especially choose React class, and I make my project to apply for this React Advanced class, and it was my first experience. But then when anyone, a part of me, reviewing my code, and because I start my learning like alone, so I was learning online and by myself. It was quite hard, and I feel myself lonely. No community, no have people to talk, and so when I suddenly knew about Code the Dream, I directly applied and I make this project, and it was approved. I don't know my feeling. I was and shocked and happy because it was my first experience who review my code and it was approved. I mean, personally for myself, of course, my code is best. What can I say? But when another people see it and approve it, I was very happy. I don't know. It was a very good feeling. I couldn't wait to start my classes. And after the week before to start the class, I noticed on the website that there are some people they apply for both, like a React and Node, for example. And I asked also Mary Alice, I say maybe I also want to try myself. Maybe let's see. And she let me. And after few weeks, I realized that better I concentrate on the one way, because I didn't want to chase, two rabbits and finally live with none. I mean, I wanted, anyway, from the beginning, my way was front end. So I wanted to concentrate on front end and React and to learn it good and be self-confident. So it was cool. I mean, mentors and community, friends, have people to talk about homeworks, about deadlines. And I'm also happy there are some deadlines every week, because like if there are no deadlines, it means no need to, can be relaxed. Anytime can watch Netflix or whatever. I mean, life is more slow, but when you have deadlines, you always concentrated, you do your homework, you contact with your mates and also mentors, and I like it. And also I like the part when we have a few mentors in different days, different times. You can choose them. You can, from the beginning, I watch all of, I joined all sessions to meet them, to understand the way of their explanation, their information and whatever. And but after, anyway, I join almost all of them every week, because there are always something to learn from all of them. And it was a good part. And after this course, after we make project, I apply for practicum. We have now we are in the end almost of our practicum. Maybe 1-2 weeks left to finish it. We are now especially hardworking, always, almost every day we call each other, we talk what we do, what we need to add or whatever. It's very excited and moment. And it's also my first experience in teamwork. I like it. And there are also some challenges. I mean, from the beginning, before I was thinking, it will be actually same. You are doing your project by yourself or with people, doesn't matter. Oh my God, it is totally different feeling. First of all, a part of you, there are some different people with their own opinion and vision. And from the beginning, it is like need always talk about everything because they cannot see with your eyes. They cannot think what you think. So you need always to talk, to learn how to explain, how to impress yourself and explain what you mean. But after it is becoming like a really good, like everybody knows their part, who do what and what kind of part of project, especially React, because React made of components. So basically everybody doing their part of code and after stick it together. But what is the most challenging? Oh my God, it is Git files conflict. It is, I don't know. When people create Git, it's supposed to help people. Still, I have dubbed, but because it is when I first time have file conflict, I was like, okay, I will do it, and I start to just press all buttons, and finally it didn't work, and it was very trouble. I don't know. Finally, I called my mentor. Finally, even he approved my code in GitHub. It was just sudden, like before it was cannot emerge before approvement. Now it is approved or you have conflicts or whatever. Finally, in my situation, it's written cannot merge, even with approval. So it was very hard. But time to time, after I understand that it is happening every day, so it is part of life of web developer or another programmer, coder. So we need just to accept this situation and just solve it. And by the way, time by time, it is getting easier and easier, thanks God. And anyway, our mentors always helping and always, I don't know, anytime I send a message, they always answer. I mean, there are no have situations like they just ignore or whatever. No, they are quite very helpful. And of course, I don't, if you have mentor, it doesn't mean that you call him and he will just code for you. No, he at least just give you advice. What is the way how to solve your problem? And also, by the way, I wanted to notice that big part of the course, of course, it is self-learning because you need to learn how to find information, how to improve yourself. I think without this part, you just 27, 24 and 24 hours per 7 days, you will just call a mentor and say, I have this problem or whatever. But finally, the most common problem is just you forget to close your braces or I don't know, one typo or one comma, which is just totally breaking all your React app. But anyway, you are improving yourself with experience. It is getting better. So I don't know, I'm very excited. I like it. Especially I find coding for myself after I become mom. Normally I was a preschool teacher and I was working with kids 6 years. It was quite cool, nice job. I like kids. But since I have my own child, I decided that I'm okay. I need some calm job where is have me, computer, and perfect if there is no one around me. I'm sorry for saying it. I'm actually a good person, but really, I need since I've become mom, I want a little bit calm down life and just programming. It is quite nice. Anytime I open computer, it's like alternative world for me, really.
Я рада, потому что я буду так кататься коньки.
Спасибо, доченька.
Поэтому я
beautiful. Okay.
попкорн.
Спасибо. You see, any She's here and I make gossips about her. Anyway, so really, I'm very happy and I think it's something good. And especially Code the Dream platform is really nice. Web.
Мам, она племянник.
Беги, доченька. Сейчас я
Мам,
приду, хорошо?
где она? Где она?
I'm really sorry.
No,
So
you're
anyway,
fine.
yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Olga.
yeah.
If you have an opportunity, do you mind sharing what attracted you to
Mom.
learning React, or like why you felt React was the
mean,
way to go for
voices.
yourself?
Before when I was learning by myself,
Yeah.
I tried to do some project with React by myself, but it was not well structured like in Code the Dream. For example, here have plan, deadlines, mentors, or whatever. But when you learn by yourself, you cannot understand where you are learning. You are learning and you don't understand. You are in the beginning or I don't know. Anyway, it is hard and cannot properly understand. So when I see the opportunity of React class, I anyway know I want to join it. But after when I see Node, I was thinking, okay, if I want in the future become like a full stack, I can also add Node or another something. I mean, in nowadays there are full of opportunities about tech stack. I don't know, skills. There are just new languages appearing every day, new technologies or whatever. But about front end, I'm sure I want to become front ender. Yeah. And for now, my priority to learn React. And maybe in the future, I also want to try. By the way, I applied for Spring class Python. Let's see how it goes. As I told before, I was thinking to start together like React and Node, but I think the good idea just to follow one direction. But I also same time I know some people who participate in and React and Node, and same time with me they successfully finish classes, they make their project, they choose practicum React or Node, and they're quite successful. It's personally, I mean but personally for me, I decided to one by one. Yeah. But it was cool. I'm also excited about waiting for Python, and also yeah, there are many something. I also like Scrimba. Really, it's good opportunity. It is good trainer. I mean, it is nice. And if I don't know if you show Scrimba to intro classes students,
Yeah, they do have access.
I like it. You know, you can watch video on same time coding or whatever, make notes, and it's also good information, good updated information, not like a anyway, I like it. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm talking so much.
No,
Anyway,
it's fine. It's great information. Thanks for sharing your information tonight, Olga.
yeah, I'm very happy. I hope also my practicum with our team will be also good. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think it is good. It's like on the wave, you know, like I don't know how to explain this feeling, but it is good feeling. Really nice. Really nice.
Awesome. All right. Any
Thank you so
questions
much.
from students for KJ or Olga about being an advanced student, or questions that need to be answered from myself or Tom or Teresa or Rio about sort of program process through things? All right. So then let me go ahead and hit these key takeaways so that way you all have that information available. So some of the takeaways that you probably have heard about and that we've talked about tonight, start out with things that interest you as far as, you know, if you feel drawn to front end, if you feel drawn to back end, if you like data sets and working with that back end, if you like working with user interfaces, design, things that the client or customer touches on, then that's a little more front end. So start out with what interests you, play to your strengths. realize that regardless of what you learn, understanding the big picture and kind of how things all fit together, rather than knowing the minutia of the syntax, is really going to help you, especially given the flexibility and the versatility of the tech industry, being able to pick up new languages as they emerge in the industry, or being comfortable pivoting from one to the other if you're taught React on your first day of the job, like Rebecca had mentioned. So having that flexibility, versatility is going to be helpful. It's not a one and done situation. If you pick React and you're like, oh, why did I do this? You can take Node the next trimester. Like, there's always learning opportunities, and there's never a door completely slammed in your face. You know, you can always learn new things. Use all of your knowledge. In the past, I've had a number of students concerned about, oh, well, I used to work in electrical engineering, or I used to work in social work, or something that feels completely unrelated to tech, but having that context from your previous jobs still speaks to, like Teresa was saying at the start of the call, about logic rules are logic rules, regardless of what language you're working with. And the logic that you use to problem solve in other jobs, in other experiences, in other non-tech industries will be an advantage and will help you. And it's not going to be a handicap because you'll have those experiences to draw on. Use your assignment submission form for lesson 15 to turn in your final projects. I'll be sharing more information about those required assessments in the last 2 weeks of class. At this time, if you are really, laser focused on wanting to do the apprenticeship program that KJ had talked about earlier, the quickest, most likely way to get into that is going to be either taking React or Ruby on Rails. We strongly advise taking React before taking Node, as Olga touched on about it's good not to chase 2 rabbits and wind up with none. I love that saying. I thought that was so cool. So feel free to pursue one class. That's totally fine. If you do have gobs and gobs of time available and you're really driven and you have 40 hours a week plus to be able to commit to both classes and you want to dual enroll, direct message me. We can talk about it and see if it's a good fit for you. And Python students who receive the conditional acceptance, you'll be taking Python in the spring. If you did not, then you'll just have to wait and take it in summer. If you're wanting to kind of get exposure to some of the similar concepts that you'll learn in Python, then taking Ruby in spring and Python in summer might be a good fit, because they do both use SQL, SQL, to be able to kind of get the bits and pieces organized that you need to, I guess, is the best and shortest way I can summarize that. Okay, I think there was a question or two that popped up in chat, so let me hit on those really quick. Yes, yeah, thank you, Rebecca, about highlighting about your skills that are, sort of soft skills, sometimes they call them, but people skills, communication skills are going to be really valuable. After the last project. So when you turn in your final project, the form you use to turn in your final project when you completed that lesson 15 project, that's where you'll indicate what class and classes you want to take in what order next. So feel free to rank them as far as first choice. I really want to take React next, or I really want to take Ruby on Rails next, or whatever. Put that as your first choice, and then put whatever would be your second best choice down as your second choice, and so on. Michelle, I can go ahead and double check, and I'll direct message you on Slack for your question that you have in the chat there. I think that hits the highlights. Are there any questions that folks have addressed that are still lurking that we can answer for you? Anything else that we can help with in the last couple of minutes that we have you on the call tonight? All right. Well, then closing parts that I wanted to share too is feel free to talk to your mentors, your assignment reviewers, your cohort leaders, your classmates, other people that you know that work in the industry. Feel free to talk to folks just like KJ had done as far as figuring out, like, what do I want to do? What are my ideas? People might try and pull you in different directions, and that's okay. It's good to be able to hear their perspectives and talk about, well, what is it like to work with this, or what is it like to work with that area? So definitely do that as you're considering and before you turn in your final project, and let us know what you want to take next. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We're here if you need us, and we'll see you in class.
Sure, everyone.
Good night.
Also,
Bye,
thank you to
y'all.
folks that hopped on the call to answer questions and be our panelists. Thanks, Olga and KJ and Rebecca.
Thank you so
very
much.
everybody.
Thanks. All right. Awesome. Thank you all so much. I thought this went great. Lots of good information, lots of good perspectives. Have a wonderful night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.